Hey everyone, welcome back to the Layback Podcast. Joining us today is physical therapist Dr. Brian Hunter. Brian joins us from the wonderful state of Maryland where high school baseball just kicked off, and it wouldn't surprise me if it's like 50 miles per hour winds today and snow on the ground. I know I was talking to some people in DC last week, and they said winds were supposed to get up to 50 or 60, and just wonderful time of year to be playing baseball, and all those people in Maryland claim to be a southern state where the weather is nice, and Brian's not even shaking his head, and that's surprising me right here. But hopefully we do get a little chuckle out of him. Beyond physical therapist, Brian is also a retired professional baseball player at this point. A fun fact, I do think he is still under club control through this year. So maybe we'll see a comeback with the Cincinnati Reds. Fingers crossed that we can get Brian back there. Not sure what he still has left in the tank, but maybe we'll kick it off, kicking it over to him and just say, how's that arm doing? Do we have a comeback this year while you're under club control?
Dude, I'll tell you what, you give me 2 months and I think I could be back up to 95.
Oh, okay.
I stepped on the mound intermittently like the last couple, maybe 8 months. I got on the mound randomly twice, and I've been up to 91 both times.
That's
So
pretty
I
good.
think give me a proper ramp up, I can get back up there. Now the caveat here is do I want to remain married, or do I want to be a single dad that's playing professional baseball again? I think that's a pretty easy choice. So no comeback here. I can just reminisce in the glory days.
We got to get you in a men's league.
I'll tell you what, maybe down the line at some point. At this point, it's such a lose-lose scenario. It's like you go in and you're like, oh, this guy pitched professionally. And I go out and I mow him down. It's like, cool, I'm supposed to do that. Worst case is that I get shelled, and it's just like, yeah, we knocked around this professional pitcher. We knocked around the park. It's like, yeah, I'm not doing that game.
No, that's super fair, and it's got to be even worse for you because that's even how I feel as an ex-college baseball player. If I were to ever play baseball again, I would never want to play infield. I would either want to do it as a pitcher or maybe play catcher, just do something completely different from what I did my entire career, just to
Agreed.
experience the game in a different way. Hell, I'd probably want to hit right-handed instead of left-handed. And then, of course, people find out you're the guy who did have a significant playing background. And as you stated, it is a lose-lose at the end of the day. So maybe we'll just save those bullets for you to throw live ABs to your clientele as they're working their way back onto the field.
I prefer to do that because then I get to humble them a bit and remind them that I actually kind of knew what I'm doing.
Is there anything to the arsenal these days, or the couple times you step foot on the mound, has it literally just been, let me see if I can get the fastball above 90?
No, I think I tell you what, man, I kind of surprised myself. The field's still there. It took me a couple breakers to figure it out. All reliable, the cutter was there. The only thing I can't fall back on. I never really had a comfortable changeup anyway, so but the fastball, the cutter, and the breaker all serviceable right now. I could roll out and give you a competitive inning before I just gas out, I think. Yeah, that's about all I got right now, capacity wise.
And we are going down a very odd path to kick off the podcast, but I have a super specific question for you. You spent a season or two in Daytona, correct?
Hmm.
Okay. Now here's where the specific comes in. By chance, do you remember the mound height of the bullpen mounds in Daytona?
Like relative, we're talking
Relative, as in I don't need the inches
no,
to
no.
any specifics.
I don't remember them being anything
Okay.
significantly outlandish. They were probably a little higher than normal, but nothing to the point where I was like, oh my God.
That's
I feel like the mound in Fort Wayne was the only mound I can think of. I'll tell you what, the in-game mound at Daytona was not super high, but it was pretty steep. Like the slope was kind of
okay.
steep. But I can't remember anything super specific about the bullpen mounds. What makes you ask?
Given my background in the college baseball coaching world, I did a fair share of showcases and then
Mm.
games around the state of Florida. And a good bit of those were done at the Tortugas Stadium. And the first time that I stepped foot on the first base bullpen mound in Daytona, I don't think I have ever been at a higher point of elevation in the state of Florida. I
I'll tell
felt
you what,
like
you might be right because we were the home
was
side of the
third
clubhouse on the
base.
third base side. So yeah,
Right.
I've never been on the first base mound.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that seems like a weird advantage to give. To be fair, though, I do think both first and third, my gosh, I think you could see for miles and miles. You could see the ocean
Yeah,
from that
yeah.
bullpen mound.
Hell yeah.
And that has stuck with me. I think the last time I was there was 2022, and I'm pretty confident that is still the highest mound I've ever stepped on in my
That's
life.
hilarious. That's so funny. I don't remember that specifically, but I love that park, man. That was a fun place to play. We were the only club that got any fans, like probably over 100 fans a game in that entire league. We'd go to Kissimmee and it'd be like you could hear a pin drop during a day game. There's like 13 fans in the game. But it was good. It was fun. We got like 1,500 fans a night. It was solid.
So now maybe that we've sprinkled in little bits of your background, let's let you actually give the high level bio at this point.
Sure. Well, so yeah, my name is Brian Hunter. I own Hex Physical Therapy and Performance in Columbia, Maryland right now. Yeah, like Adam touched on my playing background. I played at the University of Hartford from 2011 to 14. Played a whole bunch of positions there. I pitched there primarily towards the end of my career. Got drafted in 14 in the ninth round as a senior by the Reds and pitched with them from 14 to 18. In that time, I went through my own Tommy John rehab, and I got August of 2015, came back 2016 healthy. Career wrapped up in 2018. Decided to officially retire leading into spring training of 2019, and then started up PT school in June of that year. So from June 2019 to June 2022, I was in PT school back at University of Hartford, wrapped up there, and then yeah, moved my way down to Maryland and spent a year working for another practice down here. Spent about 2 years working for another practice down here, and then opened up my spot in July of 2024. So now at Hex, I think I've leaned into the baseball niche a bit in my background and my own rehab experience with my elbow and my pitching career. Felt it was a good niche to kind of lean into and kind of give me an edge over other local practices and clinicians around here. I mean, this area is particularly saturated with sports PT, I think, and there's a bunch of really good ones. And I think there was a really, I don't want to say big need, but there was an opening for someone to kind of take the reins on the baseball side of things. And it's what I love to see anyway. So it's what I feel most comfortable treating. It's I can kind of speak the language, talk the talk. It's something I really love. So it's probably 70 to 75% of my caseload right now, with a good mix of other, general population, your weekend warrior types and other sports. A weird little niche right now in strongman, which is
Yeah.
crazy. Complete opposite of baseball players. Like, couldn't be any more opposite, which is awesome. Yeah, I was lucky enough to work with a guy, Nikolai Myers, who's he's up from Westminster, Maryland, who actually he won the World's Strongest Man in 2021 in his weight class. Helped him out, and he just referred a bunch of his friends and fellow gym members my way. So I've kind of figured out that sport a bit. But it's been great, man. I mean, I've loved the journey so far. Well, July will be 2 years, and things are going great.
Maybe it's a hard question, maybe it's an easy one, but why Hex? What does it actually mean or stand for?
So it's a hexagon. You can
Right?
see right there. Yeah, right.
Beautiful
Uh,
logo.
so I
Great
appreciate
merch.
it. So purple's my favorite color. And I've had a thing with hexagons like since I was a kid. Just like I always like to draw as a kid. I always like to just like kind of draw abstract shapes and pictures and blah blah blah. And I was sitting down when I was finally like kind of made a decision to open up my own spot. I was like, all right, sit down, like try to figure out a name. And like literally the first thing that came to my head was Hex. No other reason than that. I can go into the whole background of like why hexagons are infatuating. Like they're the most efficient shape in nature, so I'll just keep it really simple. Like if you think about like a honeycomb, they're the most efficient shape with the least amount of wasted space that you can possibly put together. And it's just like nature kind of found that shape, which is I thought was freaking awesome. But yeah, I mean, just I found it interesting. I like hexagons. I like the color purple, and I sat down and wrote down Hex PTP. I created this logo in like a minute and a half, and I was like, "That's it. I'm not going to waste any more time trying to figure out another name."
And have you now tried to go back and think of like what are my 6 points of PT and performance that like every
No,
athlete needs to check?
no, I don't know, man. That's like so far. I don't know. It'd probably be better for me to have like a more brand recognition or something, but it's so not how my brain works. Oh man.
I
No, it's
love that
hey, you know
though.
what? I'm gonna write that down and start creating like six pillars or something.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that's at least the like trendy thing to do of like, oh, everything we do is married in these 6 points, so we go
Yeah,
by hex. But I
yeah.
really like the reasoning of I think hexagons are freaking rad, so I named my business
So,
after hexagons. That's great. So I guess before we really peel back the layers on the bio, you did mention that you had Tommy John yourself, and that is now probably kind of a niche market that you're able to fill as a guy that went through it yourself, as well as someone that can treat it. So over the now 11 years it's been since your Tommy John surgery, what all have you seen in changes, whether it's specifically on the surgery side or then on the treatment and management side on the back end?
I'd say, yeah, there's some obvious differences in procedure with the new implementation of the internal bracing and the repair versus the reconstruction. And now with the TJ3 that Dr. Ahmad kind of started with, the kind of combining both procedures, is pretty interesting. It's cool. I actually just got my first individual case of it now. I was working with a kid who had got it previously, but I did not handle his rehab. He was a kid I was kind of just training. I just got my first TJ3 patient a week and a half ago. Uh, and I sent him up to Dr. Ahmad to go get that done. And he feels great so far. But as far as a surgical procedure standpoint, like that's the biggest difference I've seen. I think when I was playing kind of towards the back end of my career is where I first started hearing about that, almost as like a career extending surgery for someone who just needed to squeak out, their senior year of college or maybe the back end of a contract in the big leagues. I think like Rich Hill might have been the first person to get it done. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's right. And he ended up pitching for another freaking who knows how long. That dude's still in professional baseball.
He probably is.
Yeah, I think he was signed a minor league contract last year at one point. I don't know if he's with anybody right now, but I saw him kicking around in AAA last year a little bit, which is freaking awesome. Yeah, but that from a procedural standpoint, that's the biggest difference I've seen. It expedites the recovery process. You need to have a certain location of tear and fit a certain profile to elect to get that surgery to qualify for it, but it can cut the time down in almost half from a traditional reconstruction. And then from a rehab standpoint, I'll say like the contrast from when I rehabbed mine to currently is just like not being so nervous, maybe like
Mm.
the general feeling of, and it could be my little bubble that I'm in, that all the stuff that I'm kind of digging into and researching, the environment that I kind of put myself in is like kind of pushing the limits a bit in a smart way. Obviously, we're not trying to be stupid here and get people doing stuff too early where they shouldn't be. But I think it's stuff like introducing some higher level upper extremity plyometrics as a precursor to throwing, besides just your traditional like med ball rebound kind of stuff. Some more impact with upper body contacts and power production, and obviously, stuff like the FlexPro grip is a phenomenal device too. I think from an objective data standpoint, is just like awesome to have, that obviously didn't exist, 11 years ago. With all the data now we have with between force plates, really good dynamometers, FlexPro grip, like it just makes the rehab process a lot cleaner and a lot easier to make educated decisions because the numbers are right in front of you. You can't lie.
So thinking of the shift, aside from the comparison from playing to practicing as a PT, in your early days of practice as a PT to now, do you feel that there's kind of less searching or guessing because you have all that data? It's almost like you can find the answer. If you need an answer, you can go find it just because you have the force plates, you have the dynamometry, you have FlexPro, you have all these different things that are spitting out actual objective feedback. Where if a guy says he's weak or I feel discomfort in this position, generally you can find out why, as opposed to maybe you just needed to go more like the conservative pain management route previously.
Yeah, no, I think that's like it's a great way to put it, because I think it's a double-edged sword, right? And I kind of use this example with like imaging, for example. Like if I have someone go get imaging for, let's say, a suspected lumbar disc pathology or something like that, it could technically be we could get a false positive, right? We could get something that someone could point a finger and say, oh, this is the problem tissue. Like here's what you got going on, and it could be right, but it could be wrong. And I think the same goes for data and objective numbers, like obviously it's really important to have that and to use that to guide your treatment. And I think it's just a good perspective to have, to not just be married to it, right? Use your clinical judgment, use your experience, use your anecdotal experience, and understand how to apply that, like it, and create it more of like an art where it's like not exclusively a science, right? It's not always numbers, it's not always data, it's not always feel, it's not always anecdotal experience, it's the blend of both. But yeah, I think it's unbelievably helpful, for a kid who the kid who I sent up to Dr. Ahmad, who got the TJ3. Like, he was going through conservative rehab for a suspected UCL strain. Imaging kind of came back inconclusive, kind of normal wear and tear, but ran him through Flexpro grip, and he, like, super weak ulnar deviation, painful, provocative third finger DIP flexion, all stuff that kind of raised flags for me. Like, it's interesting. Is it cause? Is it result? Who knows? But it's something that we're going to target as a deficit. And from that standpoint, yeah, it just directs your treatment really, really well, right? At the very least, you can't go wrong treating deficits, even if you have, let's say, no clue what's going on, right? You start there.
I think that's an incredible point, and this isn't necessarily even the conversation I intended to have today. We talk a lot about, even in kind of the findings that we have so far with FlexPro Grip, for instance, the retrospective study where we look at fingertip strength, mid-finger strength, and then the ratio between the two. And that was performed with college and professional athletes, so high-level throwers. And we see deficits in both strength as well as our mid-finger to fingertip ratio occur in athletes who were previously injured in the elbow or forearm. Then we can step back and say, okay, well, is that the chicken or the egg? Like, which one actually came first? Was it this weakness that led to the injury, or was it the injury and poor rehab that maybe resulted in what is currently being presented as a weakness? Does it really matter, though? If the athlete is weak, we should address that. And what's so odd is oftentimes we get stuck like pointing fingers of like, what was the cause? This is bad. This is good. But if there is something that needs attention, we should probably give it attention. If there's a bunch of houses on the street and one house is burning, there is open flames on the roof of a house, the firemen do not need to spray down every single house on the street. We should probably address the exact problem. However, then if there's maintenance that needs to be done, or if there's this potential safety hazard somewhere else, then we can address that as well. And it sounds
100%.
like from your approach, that's very much what data has enabled you to do. It's not necessarily pinpointing the exact cause of every single problem, but it at least lets you know where the squeaky wheel is and maybe what you can do about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I mean, the analogy is perfect, right? Like, yeah, you can't go wrong treating a deficit. And for out of the 70% of my caseload that's baseball, I'd say more than half of those kids are from the age of 13 to 17. Out of all those, like, their main problem is they're just not strong enough. Like, it's that easy. Like, I mean, if you want to be a baseball PT, just strengthen the rotator cuff, like, then you're good. That's all you need to do. I'm just giving you the secret to my entire business model. No, I'm kidding. No, but in a sense, though, really, it's like, I run someone through dynamometry with, like, just cuff at, supine at 90/90, and you just be like stunned at how weak some people are, and you're coming in for shoulder pain, and you're loosey goosey. Like, I can rattle your shoulder around the joint like no end, and can create 38 pounds of internal rotation. You just get them stronger there, right? And then guess what? Like, 99 times out of 100, they start feeling better. We don't even touch the way they're throwing. We don't touch anything else. You just get them stronger, getting them moving better, and by tackling deficits, you can go from there. And I don't want to make this sound too simple and too reductionist, but like, you can sometimes make it that simple. You don't need to make it super complicated.
I'm going to try to pull a relatively crappy segue here and address the fact that, yes, you're making this sound a little bit simple, but that's also because of the significant amount of experience you have, both in running your practice, being a physical therapist, as well as your career as an actual baseball player, in needing a certain level of strength to go out and perform. And you recognize that because you were doing it at an extremely high level. You were doing it throughout minor league baseball. So now, as I said, crappy segue, I'd love for you to talk about the actual journey that you went on. Maybe not from a baseball perspective right now, but I guess the academic journey in your pursuit. So what you were studying at Hartford, taking the break to go pursue baseball professionally, and then ultimately the decision to go back to school and become a physical therapist.
Yeah, I appreciate it. By the way, I want to emphasize that I don't want to make this sound too easy, right? There's a lot of nuance to it, and there's a lot of nuance to knowing how to strengthen, what to strengthen, how to progress, regress. And it is, you can boil it down to simple logic, but it's I don't want to sound reductionist here, but so I appreciate that. So yeah, for school, I mean, Hartford was one of the biggest draws to going there was that they had like a pre-PT program. So it was a health science with a focus in physical therapy, which like in a perfect world, I would have liked to have done like a kinesiology undergrad or something like that. But that's what I did undergrad in. Yeah, and I kind of always knew that that was going to be my path if baseball didn't work. I just had like this weird kind of like I was set from the age of like 12 or 13. That's kind of the path I wanted to go. I had an experience training with our travel team when I was like 12 or 13, doing like off-season workouts at a place called Infinity Sports Performance on Long Island. And Ross Tavares was the owner there, and he's a PT and owned this Infinity Sports Performance business as well. And this dude, like, he's one of those guys that has like 42 hours in a day somehow. Like he owned both businesses. He was a volunteer fireman and did like, just like did woodwork for fun or something. But the absolute man, like he's still crushing it. He's still doing a great job with both. And he was like that my kind of my let's say like my inspiration to kind of go that path. I kind of wanted to do something very similar to what he did. And he did an awesome job training us. He trained like big name guys like Stroman and Steve Matz and all the biggest name guys from Long Island, baseball guys from Long Island. He was kind of their guy. So he lit that fire for me. And it wasn't really a choice to go back to school. It was just like kind of following what I knew I was going to do. I'm kind of thankful I had that thought because if I would have thought about it too hard, I probably wouldn't have made the same decision just because I was really broke for like 7 straight years. But yeah, man, it's now that I'm here now, obviously I'm happy I did it. But yeah, so Hartford was nice enough to kind of honor me to come back and re-enter the PT program after my last year. I told them after my senior year of undergrad that like, hey, there's a strong chance I get drafted. I actually started like 4 days at PT school before I got drafted. So I withdrew and they said, okay, just let us know when you come back. Hopefully you'll come back, but if you do, let us know. So I started back up and it was great, man. It was kind of it was a good transition because not that I needed to grow up, but it was nice to kind of have a different perspective coming back to school and understanding like school's really important, obviously, but like having the life experience to be like, okay, like I don't need to be stressing out this much about exams and all of this extra stuff. Like I just got to put the work in and enjoy this. And I know that I'll come through if I do what I'm supposed to do.
We texted about it a little bit in preparation for this, so hopefully you've been able to give this a little bit of thought. But is there anything or any place you felt like you were lacking by taking time off and going to pursue professional baseball?
I would say like nothing in particular, but besides the just missing the academic setting for whatever 5 years,
Forgetting
right?
about the
It's
routine of school
yeah,
and
yeah,
studying and those
100%.
kind of things.
Yeah. It's not that I ever really let myself get out of the loop of like academic, the actual stuff, the actual meat of what I needed to learn. Like I kind of like, not that I was sitting there like reading textbooks mid-season or anything like that, but like it was something that's always intrigued me. I'm always infatuated with how the body works and learning how to, whether it's from a performance perspective or from a rehab standpoint, like I think they're the same spectrum. It's just like, how do you want to, where are you on that spectrum, right? So I was constantly taking in information on that. And so I would say like there wasn't much of a hurdle from a content standpoint, but just from a switching gears standpoint was a little different for sure.
Fortunately for you, you kind of got to live in clinicals for
Hmm.
4 years or however long that was. Now, of course, the bad side of that or the negative side is because of your elbow surgery and shoulder pain that you spent all this time in the athletic training room and with PTs and with trainers. But what it meant is you got to learn very specific case management that most students probably didn't learn for 2 to 3 years into school. And you also did it on site. You weren't doing it from this is what the textbook says. I'm sure to a certain extent, you probably felt ahead when it came to the actual human side of physical therapy.
Yeah, I would agree 100% with that. And not to sound like, arrogant by saying that, like that's not at all my intention, but like I do feel like that was the biggest advantage I had with having the experience was going back to school and understanding like the real life application of it. And like the textbook stuff's great, it's helpful, it's useful for sure, but it doesn't take you as far if you don't understand like the practical implications of things, right? That was by far my most important takeaway from my playing career into like my academic career and my current career was knowing how things happen in the real world and kind of having that leg up and then almost learning backwards, right? Instead of learning the material first and then learning the application part of it, like learning the application part and then filtering the educational portion with that lens of having that experience. And that was super useful and helpful. And I look back on my rehab experience and I'm super thankful I went through it. Obviously long year and it was definitely not the most ideal situation for my playing career, but for like life experience and helping me to get to where I'm at now, it's imperative, especially now being able to communicate that to somebody, get someone in the door for Tommy John or UCL reconstruction or repair, something like that, and say, hey, does this feel like this? Oh yeah, cool. It's gonna feel like that for the next 2 weeks. I know exactly what it feels like. Or hey, we're getting back into throwing. Your elbow's a little grouchy, and you think you retore your elbow again after throwing 45 feet. You didn't, and it's normal, and this happens. So just like chill out, you're fine. But yeah, that was definitely, I would say, the most important takeaway I had from my playing career into my professional career.
I'm guessing another piece that you never really experienced because you lived it was the unfortunate gap that often exists between physical therapy and the real world. It always seems like there's that 10%, 20% gap between how far physical therapy can normally get an individual to then the ultimate return to sport or return to competition or just return to everyday life for that matter. But you saw the bridges that needed to be made, given the fact that return to regular life for you was how do I get up on the mound and go get the number one prospect for the Detroit Tigers out on
Mm-hmm.
Thursday, and then on Saturday, go get the number one prospect for the Cleveland Guardians out. The reason I bring that up is all the physical therapists that we've interviewed here on the Layback podcast tend to say the best piece of advice that they can give to any aspiring physical therapy student is to go get your CSCS or spend time in the S&C world because that seems to be that little final bridge. Maybe there's another piece here with the direct application of skill. Now, of course, not every physical therapist can go out and be in a baseball setting. They can't be on
Mm-hmm.
the team or go pitch in a game for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
how valuable do you think now that actual specific in-game experience was for you to understand that last little step, that last leap any rehabbing athlete or patient needs to make?
Yeah, I think if you could probably boil down one specific thing that I have as an advantage over another sports PT locally, I think that would be it. It's not every PT's job to see someone through 100% of rehab, right? And 100% meaning back to full game, back to full health. We'll use a pitcher for example, right? It's not every PT's job to look at someone's delivery and assess if they're doing something incorrectly because they're not quite comfortable yet or there's some inhibitory process going on. I don't want people to feel like they should. Like that's why having like a really good network of local people in your area that you trust, that you can send a kid to from a S&C standpoint or from a skill specific standpoint, whether it's a pitching coach or something like that. That's why it's super important. But yeah, like that 10 to 10, 15, 20% is like where the biggest hiccups happen. I think it's not anybody's fault, but besides I'd say like maybe lack of collaboration or lack of resources for someone who maybe not, who's not as prepared to tackle that remaining 10% of like, what it's like to really see someone through an entire return to throw process or to assess throwing mechanics or swing mechanics or something like that. There's such a specific aspect to be able to do that. You need to have like the knowledge is great. If someone could look at someone's throwing motion, a lot of people can identify what looks right and what looks wrong. The gap in that is like knowing how to coach people into how to fix it. And your job as a PT isn't necessarily to be a coach. Like I've been lucky enough to have played, have coached throughout my entire playing career, continue to coach now. And so it's something that kind of bleeds into my treatment and something that I can kind of tackle in both. It's a small percentage gap, but it's a massive gap from that. I feel pretty damn good to, oh, okay, I'm back to normal or I'm better than I was. And yeah, I think you touched on it. Like a lot of it comes down to S&C. A lot of it comes down to specific skill coaching. And if you can't do that yourself, that's fine. You don't have to, but just then have the network at your disposal to know when to send people out to help kind of finish that process.
How would you encourage another physical therapist to build that network?
I mean, it's just like anything else. It's just getting out there and meeting people and seeing what kind of value you can provide to them. So whether you got local, travel teams in your area or let's say sports performance gyms in your area and offering and extending your help to them, and just staying fresh in their minds, right? Like if you go to them and immediately ask for people, say, hey, I need people from you, I need people from you, like asking for stuff from them, it's not going to be as rewarding, obviously, if you can offer help and then, hopefully reap the reward down the line. I think just like anything, man, you provide value and people are going to keep you in mind and you're going to build your network once you establish trust with those entities. But I would start, man, it's like I would start with those travel teams, and then you're going to meet, whether it's more players or more coaches or more pitching coaches. And this little kid goes to see this pitching coach and this little kid trains at this gym. And there you go. There's your network, right? You start doing a good job with those kids and all of a sudden you have the grounds and you have the reach to now get in touch with those different people.
And on the other side, would you encourage coaches to also reach out to local physical therapists? Is there something that can be gained from that relationship?
Man, yeah, I think it's vice versa. I think it's imperative to find the right person. That I think the biggest thing from a coaching standpoint when you're looking for a PT is someone that understands the sport process, and not just baseball. Like for anybody with an understanding of how athletics work. And let's use like a decently high level high school athlete for an example, right? Like I think a lot of coaches' apprehensions are when it comes to getting in contact with therapists or athletic trainers is that they're gonna tell them to shut it down and then they're gonna lose this player for 2, 3, 4 weeks. And that doesn't always have to be the case. And I think that's the biggest gap that I've personally like seen happen, or like some reluctance that people have had for that exact reason. So find someone that that you can trust, that you can say, hey, listen, this kid's got this going on. I think he's good to go, but I think he needs a little help. We got this tournament in 2 weeks. I want to make sure he's good to go by then. And being able to have someone that you can communicate clearly with is really important. Not having the fear that they're just going to be like, oh, you know what, you can't throw for the rest of the month. You're screwed. Because then I'm like, I don't want to send someone back to that guy because I just lost that kid because they told me he couldn't pitch. So I get it from both ends for sure.
And all of that came from the last little percentage points that need to be covered in that rehab process. So I am going to re-anchor back to this academic pursuit for you. And we talked a little bit about maybe where you felt off academically, in the sense like you were just out of routine. We of course talked about where you feel you excelled and what it is that you were able to achieve just by being in the real world and living the experiences for so long. Now, did you ever feel behind in any point, maybe because there were students that knew that this is what they were going to do, took no time off, just studied textbook after textbook? So from a clinical, or no, clinical would be the wrong word. From an actual, I guess, testing standpoint, maybe they were ahead of you. Like, did you feel kind of like lost in the shuffle with that at all?
I would say that, I mean, I definitely I wasn't getting the best grades in my PT class. I did well. I did well enough. Weirdly enough, like I liked kind of taking tests. It was just to kind of gauge where I'm at and see if what I'm doing is working. I would say like I never really compared myself to anybody else. I knew there were people that that spent days and weeks and hours studying for routine exams. And I was never going to get myself to that point. Like I wanted to make sure I knew the material. I wanted to know it well enough to apply it in real life, right? I didn't want to know it well enough to get 100 on an exam. Of course, getting 100 on an exam is great, but it wasn't my goal to do well on exams. My goal was to like learn the material well enough to know how to apply it. So definitely, I think there were definitely people that were ahead of me, like academically speaking, but I graduated and I did well on my boards, and I'm here now. And even to now, like I am by no means going to sit here and tell you that I am the most well-educated, most well-researched clinician out there. By no means is that I would be a complete lie. I know what I don't know. I definitely, I would say I'm well versed in both, but I really, really emphasize like the communication aspect, the trust aspect, and like just being able to earn trust of your patient and then being able to guide them through the rehab process with that trust. And I think you're going to get way better outcomes with that approach than you are with the quote unquote perfect clinically researched practiced rehab program with someone that is kind of like not completely bought in. So yeah, I mean, I would say definitely not top of my class academically, but did well enough.
Here's a potential fun one for you. If we tasked you with redesigning physical therapy programs for students, how would you go about that? What would be maybe a thing or two that you 100% keep as is, and what would you just completely demolish and rebuild?
So demolition and rebuild, 100% without a doubt, exercise progressions and regressions. I would say that if I did not have my playing background and my athletic background, I would have felt grossly underprepared heading into my first job. It's not a knock on any program or any, academic personnel, but I think that is the one thing for me that I think needs to, and this is maybe just my exposure to my one program, like other programs could maybe do a better job with it. I don't know, but that was my experience, was like, it was very, very, very simple and super cookie cutter. And sure, we touched on, some of the textbook ways to progress exercises with more sets, more volume, more intensity, so on and so forth. But the real life application from the maybe biomechanical lens or from a specific power demand standpoint or rate of force development, even going more towards the regression side of things, like how do we still train some of those qualities with less demanding positions and more well tolerated positions. I think you can really boil down to PT to like from a treatment standpoint, from an exercise standpoint, like that's the number one thing you need to be really, really good at. And that was the main thing that I would say that I felt was probably lacking the most in PT school. There were a lot of great things. I mean, my clinical experiences were great from an academic standpoint. They make sure you know all your red flags, your contraindications, all that stuff super, super well. And it makes sense. Like I'll speak for myself. Like I'm in PT school thinking like, oh, how many times am I ever going to run into someone with a suspected clot post-op, like for an ACL? Like, yeah, I need to know what it looks like if they do, but I'm probably not ever going to see this. So fast forward 3 months, I'm at my first job and I referred 2 people to the hospital in 3 months, and both of them had clots. So it's like thankful that you know that, right? Because it's like one kid had an arterial and a venous clot. He was like 4 weeks post-op, but yeah, they ultrasounded his calf and he had 2 clots, and it's bad news, man. One of those dislodged, and he could die. So I definitely was thankful from that end. Like I felt super comfortable from a safety standpoint, being able to apply a lot of that stuff coming out of school.
We've now spent a ton of time on the academic pursuits. I do want to go back to baseball a little bit as we kind of set up our grand finale as we discussed offline. Let's date this back now to 2015. You are pursuing, I guess second year in professional baseball. Pursuing would be the wrong word, but second year in professional baseball, and you ultimately go down with the elbow injury. I think I saw on a post from you the other day, it was in game. It was just like last pitch of an inning or something like that. You felt it go. You knew what it was instantly. So I'd love if you could talk a little bit about your own injury. I know we're asking you to go back 11 years, but I feel like that is one of those things that you just never forget.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. I recall it like it was yesterday. And the only thing I don't remember who the batter was, and I forget his name, but it was I came in like I hadn't pitched in like, I don't know. So rewind like a week and a half prior was where I first had my first little symptom. Ironically enough, pitching the All-Star game in the Midwest League. I was warming up and like the tiniest little pinch in my elbow. I go out there, I'm all jacked up, like I'm pitching late in the game in the All-Star game, and I'm just letting it rip fastballs at max effort, like 12 pitches. Next morning, wake up, like elbow's a little stiff. Didn't really think much of it. Came back. I hadn't pitched since then, probably like 4 or 5 days. So they brought me in like an 11-2 ball game. I'm closing it out. Second to last pitch, I threw a fastball and like felt distinct little pop. Step off the mound and kind of like tunnel vision, like, oh boy, that didn't feel right. Kind of like, all right, screw it, get back on the mound. I'm just going to throw like a half-ass slider, hopefully get him to roll it over. And he did, thankfully. Like slider, cool, roll over, game over. I kind of like try to go a couple days, like convincing myself, oh, it's fine. It's, it feels better. It feels better today. Yeah, it's fine. It's like, it's not torn. It's good. It's just sore. I'm playing catch at like 60%. It doesn't hurt. Like I'm just trying to mask it. So fast forward my next outing and I'm warm up in the pen. I'm like, this is bad news. I go out in the game. I'm trying to gut it out. I'm like 85, 87, flipping sliders and just like trying to get through the inning. And finally,
you're down 10 miles per hour.
Pitching coach comes out. He's like, what the hell's going on? Tom Browning, he's the man. Rest in peace, unfortunately. What the hell's going on? And I'm like, elbows barking, man. Something's up. He's like, all right, cool. We're going to take you out. So that was the last game I pitched in. Ended up getting surgery 3 weeks later. Yeah, man, it was crappy, of course. I had been pitching super well to that point. I think I had like a 2 ERA on the year. It was like mid-July or early July, and I just made the All-Star game, like I said, and things were looking good. So I came at a tough spot, obviously. There's no good spot for it, but it was at the end of the year too, so I kind of missed most of the next year. Came back August of the next year and spent like 4 or 5 weeks and in rookie ball just doing like a little rehab stint there, and definitely didn't feel right until about 16 months, I would say. So that 12, 13-month mark, like I was in game, but if I was pitching an inning, I needed like a day at least in between outings. Like I was really sore. Wasn't really comfortable throwing breaking balls in game yet. By spring training that next year, I felt good. I felt normal. But yeah, and then kind of had a little posterior impingement like late in that spring training, like right as we're about to break camp. And that was like a little setback there. So yeah, just like little stuff, man. It was like the elbow, knock on wood, to this point, like I'd never had an issue since. So it was a crappy process, but it's one I'm thankful for sure.
Now we're actually going to apply your academic pursuits. Do you think the posterior impingement of the shoulder was directly tied to something you were doing in your return from the elbow surgery?
Knowing what I know now, I think it was just more lack of load for my cuff. I would say like I did quote unquote cuff work. I did cuff strengthening, but I never loaded my cuff up enough.
You did 3 sets of 20 J-band.
Your standard protocol.
Eyes TYs on the exercise ball with 1 pound dumbbells.
They called it the 6-pack. You do six reps, 6-second holds in 6 different positions of like eyes, T's, Y's, 90-90s. Yeah, it was not enough, I would say. Yeah.
Use A's because you got your kick. Yeah, no, I went through it. Labor
the deal. Exactly. So yeah, I would say that would be what I would have probably done differently. I don't know that it was anything directly tied to the elbow, but yeah, it just probably wasn't strong enough.
Okay, so you ultimately are starting to feel a little bit better from the shoulder impingement, and I don't want to steal your thunder here, tell a story improperly, but there's a significant detail that we have left out of this story to this point. And that significant detail actually dates back to your actual elbow surgery. So now that we've set the stage and buried the lead for an hour, everything that we're talking about on this little chapter, whatever we want to call it, of the podcast is tied to an Instagram post that Brian made the other day about peptides and kind of his journey or relationship with peptides, how it ultimately impacted him and his career. Now, yes, he had elbow surgery. We needed to talk about the elbow surgery anyways. This is the elbow surgery podcast. It's plain and simple. We had to talk about the elbow surgery. But Brian elected to purchase and inject himself with peptides. I don't remember the exact peptide, and this is where I'm going to shut up and just let Brian take the wheel and tell the story for a little bit. So please, Brian, we're going to strap in for story time. I'm going to get all cozy, and I'd love if you could just wax poetic about this tumultuous time in your career.
Let's go. Yes. Yeah. The post I put up yesterday was kind of tied into all this, right? And the reason I wanted to bring it up is because I've had so many people bring up peptides in the past, I'd say like couple months now. It's just become so like commonplace. I have nothing against them, but my experience as a PT working with a lot of high school baseball players, like when I get a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid talking to me about should they take this peptide, this or that, it's like, damn, like at least I want to tell my story, at least provide some sort of other perspective besides like, oh, this stuff's great, it can fix everything. By no means am I like anti-peptide. Obviously, I did it and I made that choice. But so rewind, I get the news that obviously I need surgery, and I just like anybody, like, oh damn, like this sucks. This is gonna ruin my career. Like I was a senior sign, I signed for $5,000. Like, what do they have invested in me? Like they're just gonna freaking cut bait, and all those doubts start swirling through your head. So it's like, how the hell am I gonna get back? How do I get back faster? How do I get back better? And so I started doing all this research, and at the time, like peptides weren't really like that well known. It was like back web stuff on like T Nation, like freaking chat blogs and all this stuff. And I remember like an article from Ben Greenfield. I don't know if anybody remembers his name, but he's like the biggest biohacker guys now. But back then he was doing articles on like peptides. So he's got this big article on BPC 157, and I'm doing all this research on it. It seems like it's legit. There's like no anabolic qualities to it whatsoever. So I'm doing on the research on the other end of like the drug testing list, and it's not like officially listed, right? So it's like blanketed like peptides, and it lists like a couple of them, like ipamorelin, MK677, like a couple other peptides that were like more anabolic in nature, more of like a performance enhancing benefit. But in my mind, I'm like, I didn't see BPC on there. Like, I'm gonna take it. I need to do this. Like, I need to get back. I need to make sure I'm good to go. So I take it through my entire Tommy John rehab. Again, I don't have a control to go off of, but like I came back fine. My progress is pretty linear, like up and to the right, pretty much the whole time, no setbacks. I never really knew if it helped or not. I never really knew if it was what I was taking. Like I got it off some sketchy freaking website. So yeah, I mean, I got through that whole process, stopped taking it like probably 10 months into my rehab. And then that spring training I touched on, I got that posterior impingement. And again, like just like, holy crap, here we go again. Like I'm gonna spend another 2 months in rehab. Like it was so painful. I felt like I tore my rotator cuff. And I couldn't throw more than like 50% for like a good 4 or 5 days. Like so that was it. Like I was like, dude, back on it. Let's go get it. And this time I got it from a different website. And yeah, fast forward to like I think I got tested in June and didn't even like think anything of it because I had gotten tested when I was rehabbing my elbow too, and I was good. I'm like, all right, good. I must not be illegal then. I'm good. So I get a call in July. Hey, we just got results from your test in June. You tested positive for a substance called ipamorelin. And I'm like, what? Like no way. Like there's no way this is happening. I ordered BPC 157. I ordered like the thing that I knew like wasn't listed, right? And again, like I'm not saying like I'm not at fault here. Like it wasn't approved, it wasn't NSA certified, it was very gray at best, but it wasn't what I was intending to take. So I'm sitting there like panicking, like what the hell do I do? Like what do I tell can I what's the word? Can I can I test a second sample? And if I peel it and it just comes back positive again, I'm going to look even worse. I don't know. I think it's just like, so going back and forth on what to do with talking with the team. And then I like told them straight up what happened. I initially I was like, I don't know. Because I was trying to convince myself that it couldn't have been from the PPC. It must have been, and obviously it was. I never really found out whether it was mislabeled or like just like tainted. I don't know what the deal was. But yeah, I mean, I got banged. So 80 games right there. That was July of 17, and that was really like my first full go back at it after TJ. And again, was pitching so freaking well. I told my manager in high A what happened like before they got news. I kind of went to the clubhouse. I told everybody in the clubhouse. I wanted to like directly apologize to everybody before they heard about it from somewhere else because it was by no means my intention to try to gain some sort of edge over them. And I wanted them to all know that and hear it from me first. Spoke with them and spoke with my manager, Eli Marrero, and he goes, sits back. He goes, man, you're going to double A in like two days, right? 2 days, you're going to double A. I'm like, sick, dude. Thanks. I appreciate that. But he was really cool about it. He's like, hey man, I don't care. I completely get it. He was very understanding. Felt like everybody kind of understood, my perspective on that. I personally felt the worst for like the other guys in the pen. Like I wanted them to know, like, listen, I don't want you guys thinking I'm sitting here just like trying to edge one out over you guys, because that's, those are your boys, and I didn't want them thinking that of me, but they understood. So yeah, man, I served that suspension. They didn't release. I thought for sure they were going to release me. They said, listen, you served your suspension. They brought me back. Kind of came back somewhat into the chunk of the season in 2018, and just like was mentally, I don't want to say checked out, but like just like in flux. I kind of didn't know what was up. They kind of had me bouncing around, and it kind of seemed like I had fallen out of favor at that point. I let that kind of get to me, and it definitely affected my on-field performance for a good couple of weeks. I had a couple of rough outings. I kind of like was able to get myself out of the headspace and say, screw it. You know what? Like, this is your last season. You can't go out kind of like wearing it. You go out like with a bang, and then we can go from there. So pitched really, really well at the end of the year. I don't know, that going to that offseason, I don't know, I felt the writing was on the wall, talking with the front office and all that, and trying to get a picture of like what they were feeling, and if this was still something that was kind of looming. It just kind of, it sucked, man. It was just like, I feel like I kind of shot myself in the foot here, and I get it. Like it was completely my mistake. So I had 3 years of PT school left. So I'm like, I had to kind of make that decision to move on. And so I retired, hence why I'm still under team control. My chances my chances of coming back with the Reds are not likely, but hey, man, who knows? But yeah, dude, I wanted to tell that story again, not to like scare anybody, but just to know the risks that you take. If you're a high school kid or a college kid looking to gain an edge or come back from an injury, and you're digging through the web and where to get these things from, like you hear it all the time, like you don't know what's in this stuff. And I was in the same boat. Like, yeah, I hear that, but it's like, yeah, no, but there's no way they just like mix and match this stuff. They definitely it's definitely legit. At worst case, it's just like, it's nothing. At worst case, it's like salt water, and it doesn't work. I wasn't thinking worst case, like I'm going to fail for a completely different substance. I didn't really think that was like, yeah, of course I knew, sure, it's possible, but like, I didn't really think it was possible. So I just wanted that to be known. Like, I want people to hear that story, because I think I would have benefited from hearing it. It's not to cast judgment. Make the decision you want to make. Just know what risks you're taking on, and know what that is. And like I said before, I'm not anti-peptide. I think there's a lot of this stuff that's really, really helpful. I think there's a lot of the stuff that could be really useful in the future, like especially once we get more research and more conclusive evidence on it. There's some really promising stuff coming out. I think any sort of advancement in medicine is outstanding. I think, especially if it can help athletes recover better and perform better, not from an enhancement standpoint, but like a 162 game season is a long freaking season. 17 game NFL season is a long freaking season. Like, if we can get these people healing and recovering in a safe way, I think that's a good thing.
Sticking in our neutral stance now, I'd love if you could outline the potential benefits of taking PPC, like why this was something that was appealing to you. Granted, this was back in 2015 that it was appealing to you, but now that a little bit more has come out, now that we're in 2026 and peptides are hot in the streets. Like I told you offline, my wife asked me about peptides the other day. Mm-hmm. I'm listening to pop culture podcasts, and they're talking about taking peptides so they can have better skin or look tanner, lose weight, all these different things. I know looking tanner and losing weight weren't necessarily your motivations for taking BPC 157, but what are the reasons that an individual might look into BPC 157?
Well, I think what people are seeing now is that, there's like a couple of companies that market it as like in conjunction with TB500 is another peptide, and the blend of them together, they kind of coined it like the Wolverine stack, which is like, hell yeah, dude, I'm gonna be back.
Good marketing.
It's right for sure, man. I mean, it worked on me. No, but the benefit to it, and I don't want this to sound like I'm selling it, obviously, but the draw for me was that it was basically just it provided enhanced angiogenesis, so it increased the production of vessels in soft tissue. And it helped the receptor sites of the tissue that's damaged to basically heal more quickly, to not get into like the too nitty gritty of it. Yeah, it's a compound that's found in your gut. The original research on it was derived from looking at like stomach ulcers, and your body produces it to repair the lining of your stomach primarily. But it's a compound that your body makes, so it has like other added benefits apparently with gut health and tissue and gut lining and stomach lining and stuff like that. But what I had read was that it was really helpful for soft tissue healing, and I felt morally like I could stomach it because it wasn't a quote unquote performance enhancer, and which I still kind of hold that stance. Like obviously, if I could go back and like change my decision, I don't know that I would change it because my life would be obviously completely different right now, and I'm really happy with where I'm at. But morally, I don't wrestle with my decision to do that. I don't think I was legitimately trying to gain an advantage, but obviously it was stupid. Yeah, I mean, that's the draw to it, in my opinion. And I think that's probably the same perspective that a lot of other people, athletes specifically, have when they're looking at this stuff, is that it's not technically, it's not making me stronger. It's not making me a better player. It's just making me come back from this injury faster so I can play, which I understand.
Now the application of the story to whether it's your client base or the world of baseball as a whole. What more do you want to see from a research perspective, or what do you think the industry needs to see before peptides become a legitimate, more commonplace solution across the board, not a dark web purchase for you to quietly inject it yourself? Hope you don't get caught.
So I would say number one is like, if you're playing a sanctioned sport and it's illegal, don't take it. I mean,
That's
that's
pretty
where I would
simple,
start.
right?
That's where I
Yeah.
would start. Yeah, I mean, just blatantly breaking the rules like your boy here. No, I mean, dude, I think the other thing is like, and I think the reason they've become so popular is because you're starting to get a lot of like integrative medicine practices that are prescribing them, which would be the only path that I would go if I were like looking to take them. Like I work really closely with an integrative medicine practitioner locally here, and I refer plenty of patients over his way, like more of my general population stuff, but like he does all that progressive stuff, a lot of like hormone replacement stuff, a lot of peptide therapies. Stem cell is one called EBU. It's like basically like a blood cleansing treatment that filters your blood. It's like all this crazy progressive stuff. It's really cool. But I would definitely not be going to allamericanpeptides.com and just freaking or like the ads you get on your Instagram now for peptides, at least that I've seen.
I'm worried about what I'm going to get now for targeted
Yeah,
ads
here we
after
go,
doing
right?
this
Here we
recording.
go. Just peppered with peptides. No, I mean that's where I would steer far away from that stuff. Again, like take my story as example, like worst case is not just like it doesn't work. Worst case is like, I mean, I would even say like this sounds like maybe hyperbole, but I truly feel this way. Like I am kind of lucky that like the worst thing that happened was it was a performance enhancing substance that I was not intending to take that was in my batch. But like who freaking knows if some sort of like contaminant is in there and you get some nasty infection or something like that because it's a non-FDA approved site and just some random compounding pharmacy in Florida, just some dude just packing together a bunch of stuff. Like you never know, man. So that's truthfully like what I would say, like steer clear of that stuff. If you get a script from a doc or a PA or something like that, and cool, like I trust that, but I'm not going on random websites and ordering that stuff.
And we will simplify before we leave this topic and ultimately come to a close. Before going the route of something like BPC 157, what are the avenues that you want someone to exhaust before they say, you know what, this is it for me, and I'm willing to deal with all these consequences?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. So I kind of concluded my post with something similar. Is like if I get it, man, those voices, especially for like a long-term slash career threatening injury, that that that's scary, man. And I get it. Like I get the perceived repercussions of like not coming back and not being able to play and all of that. I completely understand it. But I think the way I phrased it was like those are just the voices of like self-doubt. And that's at least how I perceived those voices for me. Like I didn't think that, I was doubting myself. The things I was saying to myself was, oh, I was a senior sign. They have no money invested in me. But I could have also said the same thing, like, yeah, I had a freaking 2 ERA and striking out 1.5 per inning, and I was the closer and blah blah blah. Like there's their incentive to keep me. But I chose to kind of look at it from an insecure standpoint and a self-doubt standpoint. And I think I would encourage you to understand that if you can get unbelievably good results if you completely buy into your rehab process and work with a clinician that you trust 100%, that will provide you with the framework and the guidance that you need. That combo will do far more than any peptide will do for you. And I can say that with 100% confidence. Exhaust that first before you even consider anything else. And when I say exhaust that, like truly exhaust it. Don't half-ass it. Don't you know what, I gave it a shot. Now it's time, because it's an easy perceived shortcut. Don't do that to yourself, because you're taking on far more risk than you have to. What's the expression, right? The right choice is more times than not the harder choice to make.
And with this, we will round it out on a hopefully lighter note. But I do really appreciate you opening up on that topic, Brian. I'm thankful that you did it on Instagram the other day, and I'm glad that we were able to provide a little platform for you here to talk about it in even further detail. But rounding this out, like I said, on the lighter note, this is something that I like to do with all the professionals that come on the podcast. And it's become a little bit of a tradition at this point. Given the fact that you would have played at countless different ballparks over the course of your career, we are not here to find out what the prettiest or necessarily the best one was, but throughout Little League, through the highest level of pro ball you played, what is the most unique or memorable playing experience that you had tied to a stadium or a city?
Is it bad? The first two things I thought of were bad experiences. I would say, I'll have a good one. So Billings, Montana, my first year in pro ball, I came in against the Rockies. I think we were down like 5-3, and on first and second with like one or two outs. It's like sixth or seventh inning. So it was like not a huge spot, but got to come in and try to keep this game close. And this kid, I forget his first name, last name Reyes. I threw him a sinker down in righty. He hits the ball like 11 feet off the ground the entire way, just absolute piss missile right off the foul pole. And this kid pimped this. This is like 2014, before like pimp jobs were like kind of like well accepted. And he starts walking backwards down the line for like halfway down the first baseline. The guy who was on first base, we saw this. I didn't see any of this happen live. I turned around and watched the ball go out, and I was like asking for the ball back. So I kind of missed it. I turn around, both dugouts are barking at each other. My manager comes out before the next pitch. He's like, he's in there. Dick Schofield, absolute just gem of a human being. He just comes out. He goes, "Brian, I love you, man. Please don't hit this guy." It's like fully intended to, right? After I kind of like learned what happened, I was like, "Gonna just drill this next guy in the ribs and see what happens." So out of respect for him, I did not. But we watched the tape later that night, and the kid who's on first base is airplaning around second base like they won the World Series. Like it was hilarious, right? So I'll never forget this. Michael Kadire was on their short season roster on a rehab stint the year after he won the batting title. Their whole front office brass was in the stands. They like that. The kid who hit the home run comes into the dugout. Kadire like rips him by the jersey, sits him down in the dugout, and starts like berating him. Like it was ridiculous, right? The story was apparently that the brass was so pissed off by the antics that they suspended him for like 4 games. So that was like, it was crazy. And now it's like, nowadays it's like, that's like your casual, like
that literally happened last night in the Venezuela Italy game. Yeah.
Yeah. It happened yesterday in a high school game down the road too, bro. Oh man, but it's so funny how that's changed. Yeah, that's one of my most memorable ones. Not necessarily a positive one, but most memorable. I mean, don't get me going. I was just about to give you like 5 more, but we'll save.
I've said this routinely that I kind of want to do a roundtable episode at some point with just a bunch of different guys who played in different organizations during different eras and have them just tell war story against war story against war story of like, oh yeah, that happened to you. Well, let me tell you about the time my dugout flooded in AA and they made us play and none of us had shoes, like whatever, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, dude.
No, so we'll keep you on the short list if we do decide to run that
I'm definitely game, man. I got plenty of them.
And then maybe One last little one here, and I apologize if it makes you feel bad. How does it feel to once be a D1 athlete, now be a D3 athlete?
I fought everything inside of me to not say formerly D1 University of Hartford. I've just recently accepted that every time I say I played baseball at Hartford, I don't have to clarify that it was Division One when I was there. It's so sad. It's so
Well,
sad.
what's really bad is like there's an additional qualifier here. You probably don't have to clarify because you did pitch in the Reds organization. Now, there are people, tons of people, probably tons of your teammates that the peak of their existence was wearing the Hartford jersey. And you better believe that they are still saying, and to be fair, I kind of understand it, saying that
100%.
I pitched at D1 Hartford.
Yes, yes. And I'll say we're particularly my class in, let's say, the 3 years before or after us, the 3 years younger than us, I would say are probably like maybe 4 years younger than us. So I'll tell you this, my freshman year, we went 643-1. We were like the fourth worst team in Division One baseball. New coaching staff came in my sophomore year, all from UConn, and they were amazing. They were like, I wouldn't change a single thing about that coaching staff. They were incredible. They turned the program around completely. So like by the time my senior year hit, we set the single seasons win record. We won 34 games. We made the conference tournament for the first time. So like being there for that turnaround at the D1 level, like going from just absolute doormat of the America East, like one of the worst baseball conferences in the country, to then being like a freaking good program. Like they made the tournament in 17. I think in 16 they had a really good year. They made the tournament in 18 maybe. Like we had some guys. We had like two big leaguers out of Hartford. We had Sean Newcomb, my draft year. He was 15th overall by the Angels at the time. He's up with the A's now. And then David McKinnon was a freshman when I was a senior. He got some time with the Angels in the big leagues. And like, dude, we had plenty of guys in pro ball. But yeah, like looking back at that core group that had kind of been there through the shit and then turned the program around and now look at it like a struggling D3 program, it's like, why? Like that's just like heartbreaking. But hey man, can't do anything about it.
We're gonna claim you as a D3 guy because that's what the school is now.
Hey, D3 to pro ball. Like
That's right.
that's fine. I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah. I don't know if AI right now is smart enough to know that you were D1 to pro ball. So if we did an AI search on you, it might say you were D3 to pro ball.
Oh, damn, it's a good call. Good call.
Yeah. Other famed closer right now, Mason Miller, D3 to pro ball. So
Same guy, basically.
same guy. Yeah. You're basically Mason Miller at this point.
Yeah. He's just not a PT, so I got one up on him.
Good point. Yeah,
Yes.
there we go. I would definitely rather trade lives with you than Mason Miller at this moment.
Hell yeah.
But no, I think this is where we can round it out, Brian. We've been going for well over an hour at this point. This has been awesome. I really appreciate you opening up, like I said, and then really just showcasing so much of what goes into your daily life as a PT and the progressions that you undertook to get to this point. This has been an incredible conversation. I look forward to having more with you.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me on, and yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, look forward to hopefully hopping back on. We can do that roundtable and just story tell for like 3 hours. Probably
That's
need
right.
more, actually.
We're gonna have to find some date, and knowing that all of our familial lives we'll probably have to like schedule this like 6 months in advance and be like,
yes.
by the way, on October 7th, I am
For
going
3
to
days.
yeah. But yeah, we'll get that on the book. So all the listeners be sure to mark that down and hold us to it. But of course, it is time to sign it off. So to all the listeners, thanks for laying back with us.